So good evening, everybody. Welcome to 2022 and our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. And with all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program tonight. Our first program of 2022. So glad you were able to join us this evening and bring your sublime nature, your divine essence. Whether the mind is recognizing that or not doesn't really matter, because it's the truth of who you are. And that's what everything we do celebrates, invokes, allows us to get immersed in. It's what all the practices are aimed at. So thank you for coming, and thank you for being ones who do practices to come to know that more and more fully and be more and more empowered then to live it into the world, a world that we can see desperately needs as much as light and compassion and love and wisdom as we can bring into it. So thank you. So this evening, of course, we're going to start with the opening mantras. And in this age, especially, this what's known as the dark age of the four ages that time cycles through, mantra is seen as like the almost like the essential practice, because it is so easily done. That this is an age that was recognized that people would be very distracted, have so many things to be engaged in and doing. And so the divine took a form to be so easy to do, to engage, to become immersed in, to enter the river of Shakti that takes us into the ocean of pure being. That's mantra, this throb of the infinite. So we start with the opening mantras. Shri Mata Kalim Devi Ki Jai Gajananam Bhotaganari Sevitam Kapita Jambo Palacharu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shokam Vinashakarakam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamandaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti 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 Shri Mata Kalim Devi Ki Jai. So once again, with all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. That's silence, that's stillness. That's what is the foundation of all the practices. It's the foundation of all traditions. Entering that stillness, that silence, allowing the mind to both quiet and become irrelevant. So even if it's moving, it doesn't matter. The spaciousness of silence, the spaciousness of being is infinite. The mind is a speck within that. Now, of course, when our vision is like this with the mind, it fills our vision. So that's why we keep stepping back and stepping back and stepping back and allowing our awareness to expand and be able to reclaim the fullness of that. It's always there, but our attention keeps getting locked in on the content of mind. And so stillness and silence and mantra, a throb of that dissolves back into that, really are the means by which we can enter that direct state of knowing and know the fullness of that. And when we think of, new year, starting of new year, starting of anything, that's a time of paying particular attention, being aware of the quality of our attention. In the same way that, what do we do when we start the day? Well, that's a time for practice. That right as we begin to come into waking state consciousness, to bring to mind the power of mantra. Mantra then becomes this background throb of the infinite going all the time. So the practice of japa, the practice of this silent repetition that's going on through the day, keeps anchoring us, keeps bringing us back to the truth of who we are. Our attention may wander off with the mind and get caught up in being identified with this feeling, this outrage, this whatever it might be. Just keep bringing it back. Keep bringing it back. And by starting the day with that, with mantra, with meditation, with chanting, we give ourselves a foundation for the rest of the day to rest on. What is it resting on? The infinite, a throb of the infinite, the living presence of the infinite. And when we think about doing practices like that, in a sense, mantra, there are so many different mantras, but we use a particular mantra for meditation. That's the one that we come home to every time. It might be Om Namah Shivaya. And every time we meditate, we become absorbed in that. Or Om Kali Ma. And we keep coming back to that and becoming absorbed in that. In fact, this weekend, on Sunday, we're going to have this all-day silent meditation retreat. And it's going to be a combination of that silence and stillness and time for chanting Om Namah Shivaya and Om Kali Ma, to really become absorbed in that. And then it becomes the carrier wave for our consciousness through the day. And in a one-day retreat like we'll do on Sunday, it then becomes the means for sustaining that stillness, that quiet, right? Because the mind that's repeating mantra, in a sense, you can almost think of it mechanically. If the mind on its own has got this thought and then another thought and then another thought and then 7 more thoughts and 10 more and everything, just thought after thought after thought. If you keep coming back to mantra, mantra is like one thought. Even if you only thought of the mantra 1 every 10 thoughts, you've actually reduced then the number of thoughts by 10%. Becomes every other thought, now you've reduced the amount of thoughts in the mind 50%. So just like that, we're replacing so much of that useless thinking, that mindless chatter, with this throb of the infinite, the throb of the essence of our own being. So we also cultivate that understanding, that awareness, that when we're repeating mantra, we have this throb of the infinite going on. It's different than other thoughts. Other thoughts are mind-born. This arises out of that sublime infinitude, that spaciousness of being, taking the form of sound in order to be a conduit for drawing our consciousness back to its essence. Why? Because that's where we get free of suffering. That's where we then bathe in what Buddha called the Four Immeasurables, the boundless joy, the boundless compassion, the boundless wisdom, the boundless equanimity, so that can inform the mind. That's already the nature of our highest being. So we want the mind really close to that, so that it's picking up those qualities and then having that run through the vehicle of mind and body, so that moment by moment we're simply living it into the world. So mantra is this extraordinary vehicle for doing that. And the ordinary mind, because the ordinary mind's got so many thoughts going on, it takes for granted, that exceptional nature of mantra. The ordinary mind makes things ordinary. These are just basic principles that meditators start to see. Oh, that's what the mind does. It even does it when you go to sit. Go to sit for meditation. Here's this exquisite practice that you're doing. This exalted practice. This noble practice. Meditation. Whether you're doing it for 30 seconds or, 3 hours. It's this exalted practice. And what does the mind do? How does the mind approach that? Does it approach it with that understanding? No, so often it's like a, unruly teenager. No, you're going to make me do that. Poor mind. Now, it does like it once it gets quiet and feels the good sense that comes with that, but it sure can be resistant to begin with. So we cultivate that understanding, and we bring that to our practice. We let how we sit reflect that, right? So that there's a nobility to our posture, that we're bringing that kind of respect, because meditation is a time when we're coming into the presence of the divine consciously. We're already in the presence, but now we're coming in consciously. So knowing that, we want to be fully present, and we want our body to reflect that clarity of awareness, that energy of presence, so that posture, because we know, and there's physiological studies that have been done on the quality of attention that shifts if we're slouched and slumped over. Literally, how the brain is working isn't as good as when we're upright and breathing more naturally and fully. So posture, even in the most mundane way, affects quality of attention, quality of awareness. So when we want to bring the highest quality awareness to our practice, that's what we cultivate. In the same way that one of the sort of facets of that highest quality of awareness actually is love. Loving attention is our highest quality attention. Loving attention. Think about when you really love someone, something, you bring this natural state of attention to that, right? Well, that's also something we want to note and cultivate, that we bring that quality of attention to our practices. So these are ways that we can help to refresh and keep the kind of energy up around our practices and not allow the ordinary mind to go sort of slumping into practice. So we're cultivating this kind of attention, this kind of awareness. Now, often we're doing, one particular mantra for meditation. We might do the same mantra or just one other mantra for japa, the silent repetition during the day while we're doing things. Because as we're doing that, as the mind is engaged in mantra, it's not wandering off. That's part of why, I've frequently have reminded people the word mantra means that which protects. So when the mind is engaged in mantra, it's protected from wandering into places that are just going to bring pain or suffering, or lack of skillfulness, or just impulsivity and reactivity. So mantra is this gathering place for the power of mind, because the mind is a powerful instrument. And mantra helps it to be that power to be gathered, to be concentrated, available, like a reservoir. So then when we really want to give our attention to a task, a person, whatever it might be, our mind has been gathered and it's right there ready to go. Because we've all had the experience of why we're trying to focus on something, we're reeling our mind in from 17 different directions in order to have it really be present. So mantra through the day helps keep that energy present, keep it available, this extraordinary reservoir of attention. Attention is Shakti. It's the power of consciousness, right? So it's, in a sense, all of sadhana and all the practices are about managing this energy of attention, this Shakti, this power of consciousness. that so often we're just leaking all over the place. Our attention is running here and there. There are a million things in the world vying for our attention. That's why we can feel so depleted, because giving attention is giving energy. So a meditator wants to be very aware. What am I giving my Shakti to? What am I giving the power of my attention to? Is it worthy of my attention, of that energy? So we become conscious like that. Now also the mind is a novelty-seeking instrument. It loves new things, right? So one of the things it has to become more trained to do is that sustaining that stillness and that silence. Part of that is facilitated by just staying with one mantra, with the breath, or without the breath. If you're doing Om Namah Shivaya in meditation, it's just on and on, repeating that over and over again, and keeping a quality of attention and awareness with that. Keeping the awareness of I am that mantra, I am the source, I am that, all of that. That's why that hamsa is the root quality of attention, of awareness that goes with these practices. And we bring it down even to just 2 syllables, the aham, just the I am, right? And in a sense, that's not even a really accurate way of understanding aham. Because when we think of I am, well, the mind thinks in ordinary terms. The I am it thinks of is what it always thinks of. I am this limited being, I'm bound in time and space, I'm here, I'm not over there. The I am awareness, that mantra is a pulsation of, is the I am of I am the infinite. I am beyond everything imaginable. I encompass all, embrace all, hold all in that loving, compassionate wisdom. Right? It's beyond words. Even those words, trying to point desperately to something so magnificent, so grand, that words will always fail in their approach. So even when we're holding that sense of I am, realize that it's beyond that. It's beyond that. It's beyond any thinking, any knowing. Right? The direct knowing is the consciousness itself that is self-luminous. That means it illumines its own being in its infinitude. Not the little flashlight of the mind that can, shine a little light on this or that in the world and in its inner domain. No, this is the luminosity of the infinite. So when we engage in mantra, that's all that's wrapped up in that. It's quite exceptional. And so you can see why it's hard for the poor, ordinary mind to hold all that, right? But that's part of the practice when we go to sit or go to do mantra, is to hold that kind of awareness. Now again, the novelty-seeking mind, it likes change, it likes differences. So meditation, we're just staying with the mantra, the stillness, the silence, because as mantra dissolves into stillness, then you don't have to keep repeating it. Then you just rest in the infinitude of stillness. No need to repeat a mantra there. That's where the mantra wanted to bring you, dissolve into that. But along the way and throughout the day, the mind likes other things. So sometimes we can be chanting other kinds of chants, other kinds of mantras, things that also turn our awareness back to the truth of who we are. One of the great mantras out of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and we haven't done this mantra before, and it's a mantra in Tibetan. It's Om Ahung, Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. That's going to show up on the chat box. There it is. Om Ahung, Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. Om Ahung, Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. And it's slightly different in Sanskrit. The original kind of mantra was a Sanskrit mantra. And In there, we would be saying the Om Ah Hum and doing the Vajra Guru Padmasambhava Hum. Slightly different pronunciation. But really what that mantra is directing our attention to, and more importantly, is a throb of the infinite. Right? But this is a mantra that invokes the power of Guru Padmasambhava. So Guru Padmasambhava was the great Tibetan Buddhist master who brought Buddhism to Tibet, and he was what's called a Mahasiddha. A Siddha is one who's fully accomplished. There was only a certain number of Mahasiddhas. These great Siddhas, extraordinary power that they had, and that he brought to Tibet and had the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism coming from him and flourishing in Tibet. And it said that when we're using this mantra, that it's bringing the entire power, not only of Guru Padmasambhava, but the entire lineage of Tibetan Buddhist masters and all their realizations and all the dakinis and all the celestial beings, everything, all that power wrapped up in Om Ahum, Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. And Om Ahum is, those first three syllables are really untranslatable. Om is the throb of the infinite. It arises out of stillness and dissolves into stillness. And we see it as the mantra that's often used to start many other mantras. It's the root Shakti, the power of consciousness. Whether it's Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Kali Ma. Right? They all flourish and come out of that. It's said that Om incorporates all the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet. So when we're drawing on Om, again, all that power, all that energy is present. Ahung is another way of pronouncing the Aham, that awareness of the presence of being, infinite in its nature, beyond thought, beyond mind, untranslatable, really. And so that's what we're invoking. And Benza, which is Vajra in Sanskrit, Vajra means like diamond or thunderbolt. And that's an invocation of the Shakti, right? The Shakti is the thunderbolt of enlightenment, the thunderbolt of pure awareness, the thunderbolt of consciousness that cuts through all of the sort of binding power of mind, of limited consciousness. So that power is in here, and it's invoked by that Vajra, Benza. Guru is that enlightened being that's the essence of who we are. The inner Guru, Guru, the one who takes us from darkness to light, right? That enlightened awareness, it's not a person, it's Shakti. It's another way of talking about the Shakti, the power of consciousness, to free us from all bondage, free us from all suffering. Even as we're walking every day through the world doing things, right? We can see how the mind keeps getting caught. But consciousness itself, never is it bound. It's always right there. That's why if we just shift our attention, shift it out of the mind and into mantra, into that living presence, into that power, it is right there, right now, right here, right now. Throbbing. Your mind is a throb of that. Your heartbeat is a throb of that. Your body is a throb of that. There's nothing that's not a throb of that. That's what these powerful mantras are invoking, is the direct knowing of that. So when we enter that, we can have the direct experience of this blazing Shakti taking on all forms, dissolving all forms. Everything happening like that. Right? And then when we get to the words, the Padma, or Pema in Tibetan, well, Padma is the lotus, right? And it's a symbolic image of the lotus of enlightened mind springing from the mud of worldly existence. But you go back a little bit further, And Padma, Padma is the great goddess. Padma, the consort of Vishnu. She is Shakti. It's Shiva Shakti in the same way that it's Vishnu and Padma. She's the Shakti behind the manifestation of everything. So again, we're invoking the divine feminine as the source, the mother of it all. Just like we're saying, Bhagavati Ma Prajna Paramita, that great transcendental wisdom, the great goddess that is the mother of all Buddhas. That's Padma, right? That's Vajra. These are all invoking that power, that energy, that Shakti of consciousness that is your essential nature. That's what we have to get. That's where freedom lies. That's where the power to live boundless love and compassion and wisdom into this world of suffering and limitation comes from. The mind cannot generate that. It needs the power of mantra to survive, to thrive, to come to know its source, and then be empowered to live that into the world. That's what these practices are aimed at. So, and then the word in the mantra is Siddhi. Siddhi means fully empowered, fully conscious, fully accomplished. Right? So it's again referring to what comes of becoming completely immersed in that, completely immersed in the mantra, right? Because the mantra is that throb of the truth of who we are. So the mind starts off perhaps contemplating some of the meaning, but we have to let go of that because all meaning is limited. The direct experience, it's beyond translations. It's beyond meaning. It's absorption. It's absorption in that. So when we become absorbed in that mantra, the mantra as a vehicle takes us to that source. That source is infinite. That source is often considered dark to the mind because it's a mystery to the mind. The limited mind doesn't enter there. Pure awareness is there. And then the radiance of that awareness can illumine the mind, illumine it with that love, that wisdom, that consciousness, that steadiness. That's what comes through the mantra. So when we chant this mantra, which is what we're going to do, it's just allow yourself to kind of just resonate with that. Set aside these meanings. They're meaningless. They entertain the mind for a few minutes because the mind wants to believe in these things. But that's not the heart essence of it. That's not the heart essence of Guru Padmasambhava, the great Rinpoche. It's this power of that sublime consciousness. So we're going to start with this mantra. We're going to chant this for a little bit. And it starts out in a very low register, goes up to a higher register, then it come back to the low, and then we'll sit in stillness for a bit. That stillness, that silence, the gift of the mantra. Then after that, we'll be chanting another emanation of that same consciousness. We'll be doing a chant of the Tare mantra. But we'll start with this one. And it's going to start with the Om. Because Om is that primal sound. Om is what gives rise to all the mantras. Om is what also gives rise to the mind. Om is also what can reabsorb the mind and free the bound energy of the mind to be available for pure knowing, for boundless knowing, for boundless loving. Om Benza Guru Pema Siddhi 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 Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. 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 Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Just resting. Stay in the stillness. The stillness, the silence, the spaciousness surrounds all thoughts. Embraces the entirety of the mind and body. Spaciousness, infinite, boundless, free. The spaciousness of pure awareness illumines every thought, every feeling, every sensation. Turn your attention to that luminous quality of awareness, the source of illumination, the infinite one, your very self. Rest there. close with a chant, invoking the mother of all mantras, the mother of all creation. Om Kalima, Om Kalima, Kali Namo Nama, Om Kalima, I bow to you. So we end with this prayer. And may all our practices truly benefit everyone. And may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. A mantra, stillness, mantra, stillness, stillness, mantra. What else do you need? So keep coming back to that. The mantra is like a call, a love call from the infinite to the finite. They're all one. The finite gets lost in being finite. The infinite never forgets. So it sends out this throb, this pulsation of sound, of light, of loving embrace, welcoming us back. And here, take refuge here. So we keep coming back to that. So I want to thank you all for coming and bringing the fullness of your divine self, the power of your practices and the power of your commitment to the practices, to the Sangha, and sharing that. So important. Thank you. And then the following Sunday, on the 16th at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll start the course, this kind of a study discussion group on the soul's journey, and using the book, The Soul's Journey and Guidance from the Divine Within, as a way of unfolding that and looking at this archetypal way of understanding what we're going through in life, what's the deeper meaning, and also how the map of Kundalini processes and Kundalini awakening and the whole system of chakras and the subtle body is an ancient map for understanding on a symbolic level what unfolds in that transformative process in the soul's journey, coming home to know the fullness of its own self. So that will start on the 16th, and so you can sign up for that anytime up until next Friday. So once again, thank you for coming, and with all my heart, with all my love, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again.